Canada, land of scenic lakes, snowy peaks, and sky-high crime rates. In 2025, the numbers are in, and let's just say they're anything but polite. Which city saw over 300 gun-related incidents in 1 year? Where did car thefts spike by 28% overnight? And which peaceful-sounding town now ranks in the top 3 for violent crime? You might think you know Canada, but this countdown will flip your expectations upside down. These aren't just cities. They're real-life crime hotspots with stats that feel more like Netflix thrillers than tourism ads. Think your city's safe? Let's find out. This is the dark side of Canada. Number 10. Regina, Saskatchewan. Regina, a city that sounds like it should be calm and royal. I mean, it's named after a queen. But don't let the name fool you. In 2025, Regina is sitting at the number 10 spot with a crime severity index, CSI, of 53.4. That might not sound wild at first glance, but here's the deal. Anything above 50 is considered seriously concerning in Canada. And while Regina has some truly charming vibes, like Wascana Park, which is actually bigger than New York Central Park, it also has a darker side that's been making headlines. So, what's going on here? Well, Regina's seen a sharp rise in violent crime rates, especially assaults and armed robberies. In fact, police data shows that assaults have risen by over 18% year over year, and thefts over $5,000 have gone up by 12%. On top of that, drug trafficking cases increased by 21%, which is a major red flag for public safety. Even break-and-enters are up by 9%, which means people are literally getting their peace invaded in their own homes. But here's something even crazier. Regina's youth crime rate is one of the highest in the country. A staggering 35% of all reported crimes in the city involve individuals under 24, and that's got local authorities scrambling for solutions. The city's been investing in community programs and mentorship initiatives, but the results are slow. And this isn't just about numbers. These stats are real stories of people feeling unsafe walking at night or businesses closing early because of rising incidents. Now, don't get me wrong, Regina has its good sides, and many neighborhoods are safe and peaceful. But if you're thinking of visiting or moving here, it's smart to know where to go and what areas to avoid. Locals often say the North Central neighborhood is where most of the action, trouble, happens. And if you're ever out and about downtown late at night, maybe double-check your surroundings or grab a buddy. So yeah, Regina, beautiful parks, rough streets, and a crime rate that's keeping it on Canada's most dangerous radar. Buckle up, we've got 9 more cities to go, and it only gets wilder from here. Number 9. London, Ontario. London, Ontario might sound like a peaceful slice of suburban heaven, and with its tree-lined streets, sprawling parks, and university town charm, you'd never guess it's creeping up the crime charts. But in 2025, London has locked down the number 9 spot on our list with a crime severity index of 53.9. That's higher than some bigger, busier cities. What's going on in this so-called forest city? Well, the forest is seeing a little too much action. Violent crimes in London rose by 17% in 2024, including spikes in assaults, home invasions, and weapons violations. The city has especially seen an uptick in drug-related crimes, specifically connected to opioids. In fact, London recorded over 150 opioid-related incidents per 100,000 people, one of the highest rates in Ontario. But that's not all. Property crime is making residents nervous. Break-and-enters are up by 11%, vehicle thefts by 14%, and shoplifting by a shocking 22%. Yes, even your local grocery store isn't safe from sticky fingers. And a recent report showed that 911 calls in London increased by 9.6% compared to the previous year, showing that people aren't just noticing crime, they're experiencing it more often. Now, part of the challenge is the city's fast growth. With over 420,000 residents and a large student population, hello Western University, London's infrastructure and law enforcement are playing catch-up. Downtown London in particular has become a hotbed of petty crime and substance abuse issues, while neighborhoods like Soho and Old East Village have been flagged as crime hotspots. The good news? The city is investing millions into community policing and affordable housing projects. There's a massive push to revitalize troubled areas and get youth involved in mentorship and training programs. But for now, London's a city of contrasts. Beautiful Thames River walks by day and rising street crime by night. So yeah, if you ever thought London was just a quiet Ontario city, you might want to think twice. Just like a horror movie filmed in a cozy cottage, sometimes trouble shows up where you least expect it. Number 8. Kamloops, British Columbia. Kamloops. The name rolls off the tongue like a tranquil BC breeze, and with all its mountains, lakes, and desert landscapes, this city screams outdoor adventure. But here's the plot twist. Kamloops isn't just about hiking and kayaking. In 2025, it's also the 8th most dangerous city in Canada, with a crime severity index of 54.8. That's right. Behind the scenic views, there's a growing wave of crime that's got residents more alert than ever. So what's happening in this laid-back city of about 100,000 people? Well, one word: drugs. Kamloops has become a major pit stop in BC's drug trafficking routes, and the numbers are wild. Drug possession charges increased by 23% last year alone. Even worse, opioid overdoses hit a staggering 145 cases per 100,000 residents, making Kamloops one of BC's hardest-hit communities during the opioid crisis. But the crime doesn't stop there. Property crime is up by 18%, especially in the downtown core and North Shore. Residents have reported surges in car break-ins, theft from porches, and vandalism. Even peaceful areas like Brocklehurst and Aberdeen are seeing the ripple effects. Police reports from 2024 show that violent crime, including aggravated assault and weapons-related offenses, rose by 14% year over year. So what's fueling this chaos in such a beautiful place? It's a mix of economic inequality, lack of affordable housing, and substance abuse. The city has also seen an increase in homelessness, especially since rental prices in Kamloops have jumped by over 20% since 2022. That pressure is pushing people into desperate situations, and the community is feeling it. The city's trying to fight back with expanded mental health services and a new downtown community safety plan, but it's a tough battle. Even local business owners are putting up security shutters and closing earlier than usual. It's not all doom and gloom. Kamloops still has incredible natural beauty, a strong art scene, and warm people. But if you're planning to visit, keep your valuables close and your eyes open. So yeah, Kamloops is like that friend who looks totally calm at brunch but secretly has 12 unread court summons. Gorgeous? Yes. Safe? Depends on the street. Number 7. Brampton, Ontario. Brampton, Ontario, a city that's been growing so fast it practically needs a seatbelt. With a population that just passed 700,000 in 2025, Brampton is one of Canada's youngest and most diverse cities. But with rapid growth comes growing pains. And in Brampton's case, it includes a spike in crime that's landed it a crime severity index of 55.3. That's not just a number. It's a flashing neon sign that says, "We've got problems." Let's talk about what's really going down. First off, gun violence is a serious issue here. In 2024, Brampton recorded over 170 firearm-related incidents, including shootings, robberies, and illegal weapons possession. Peel Regional Police have been sounding the alarm, linking many of these crimes to gang activity and youth violence. In fact, over 42% of violent crimes in Brampton involve suspects under the age of 25. That's a stat that hits hard, and it's not just violence. Property crime is up 15%, especially in neighborhoods like downtown Brampton and the Kennedy Road corridor. Carjackings increased by 12%, and catalytic converter theft, yep, that's a thing now, is becoming a local epidemic. Residents are installing home security cameras faster than Amazon can deliver them. The city is trying to keep up, pouring money into police recruitment, mental health programs, and community centers. But let's be real. When you're adding about 15,000 new residents a year, it's hard to maintain a sense of safety. And with rising costs, rent in Brampton is now averaging $2,300 for a two-bedroom apartment. Economic stress is adding fuel to the fire. But here's the twist. Brampton isn't all bad news. It has amazing food, vibrant festivals, and some of the friendliest people you'll meet. It's a city bursting with potential. But it's also one of the few in Canada where parents regularly text their kids, "Are you home yet?" just because walking outside after dark feels sketchy. So if Brampton were a person, it'd be that ultra-talented friend who's juggling 10 things at once but hasn't slept in 3 days, and sometimes lashes out. Beautiful, dynamic, but definitely in need of a break, and maybe a curfew. Number 6. Hamilton, Ontario. Hamilton. Once the pride of Canada's steel industry, now it's got a bit of a rep, and not just for its waterfalls. In 2025, Hamilton's sitting at number 6 on our list with a crime severity index of 55.8. That's higher than cities with way more people. So what's the deal with this city of nearly 600,000 residents? First off, Hamilton's crime surge isn't exactly new, but it's getting harder to ignore. Over the past year, assaults are up 16%, break-ins jumped by 11%, and vehicle theft is up a crazy 19%. And here's the kicker. Gun violence has increased by 21% since 2023, with many of these incidents tied to gang activity, particularly in the city's Lower East End. Police have responded to over 300 firearm-related calls in the last 12 months alone. But it's not just street crime. Hamilton is also battling a serious opioid crisis. In 2024, the city reported over 180 opioid-related deaths, making it one of the hardest-hit cities in Ontario. Combine that with rising homelessness and mental health struggles, and you've got a community under pressure. The downtown core, once a hub for small businesses, is now seeing more boarded-up windows than coffee shops, especially near Barton Street and King Street East. But Hamiltonians are nothing if not tough. Local organizations like Keeping Six and the Hamilton Center for Civic Inclusion are stepping up, creating support networks for those most affected. The city's also investing in safer transit systems and community policing, but it's a slow grind. And as rent continues to rise, currently averaging around $2,200 a month for a 2-bedroom, the pressure cooker keeps boiling. Now, I gotta say, Hamilton still has a ton to love. Beautiful hiking trails, waterfalls, artsy neighborhoods like James Street North, and a growing foodie scene. But when the sun sets, the tone shifts. Even lifelong locals will tell you, be careful where you walk after dark. So if Hamilton were your buddy, he'd be that rough-around-the-edges guy with a heart of gold, but also a few too many fights under his belt. Loyal? Definitely. Charming? Sometimes. But right now, he's in a bit of a crisis. Number 5. Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Sault Ste. Marie, aka the Sioux. It's one of Ontario's smaller cities, with a population of just under 75,000, but don't let the size fool you. In 2025, it ranks as the 5th most dangerous city in Canada, with a crime severity index of 60.2. Yep, 60.2. That's higher than some of the biggest cities in the country, and it's raising a lot of eyebrows. So what's fueling all this chaos in what should be a quiet lakeside town? For starters, property crime has exploded, with theft and break-ins up by 22% over the past year. Residents report everything from stolen bikes to full-on garage burglaries. One local even went viral after catching a thief on his doorbell camera mid-sandwich. Seriously. But things get darker when we talk about violent crime. Assaults rose by 19%, domestic violence cases are up 13%, and weapons offenses have increased by 17%. Many of these crimes are rooted in deeper issues like addiction, poverty, and lack of mental health services. The Sioux also has one of the highest per capita rates of opioid overdoses in Ontario, with over 130 cases per 100,000 people in 2024 alone. And let's be real, economic struggles play a huge role. Sault Ste. Marie. Marie has seen major factory closures and job losses over the last decade. Today, the unemployment rate hovers around 8.2%, and many residents live below the poverty line. Combine that with a struggling housing market, and you've got a recipe for rising desperation and crime. The city is trying to fight back. Police patrols have increased, social service organizations are working overtime, and there's a push for downtown revitalization. But resources are stretched thin, and progress is slow. Areas like Bay Street and the downtown core are still considered no-go zones after sunset by many locals. That said, don't count the Sioux out just yet. It still has its charm. gorgeous waterfront views, friendly people, and a strong sense of community. But right now, it's a city fighting hard to reclaim its peace. If Sainte Marie were a friend, it'd be the quiet one in the group who suddenly starts throwing hands at the party. Unexpected, confusing, and more intense than you remembered. Number 4. Winnipeg, Manitoba. Winnipeg, known as the Gateway to the West, home of the Winnipeg Jets, the Forks Market, and crime. Yep, Winnipeg lands at number 4 with a whopping crime severity index of 60.5 in 2025. That's the highest among major cities in central Canada. And it's not just stats. It's a way of life here, for better or worse. Let's break it down. Winnipeg's crime scene is a full-on mix. Violent crimes are up 14%, with homicides, assaults, and stabbings taking center stage. In fact, Winnipeg had 53 homicides in 2024, giving it the highest murder rate per capita in the country. That's 1 homicide per 14,000 people. Let that sink in. But it's not just about murder. Break-ins rose by 12%, car thefts by 18%, and drug-related charges shot up by 24%, especially fentanyl trafficking. The city's downtown and North End areas are particularly high-risk zones, with locals often avoiding certain streets altogether after dark. And the youth crime issue? Off the charts. Over 40% of arrests in 2024 involved individuals under 21, many tied to gang-related violence. Winnipeg has over 30 active street gangs, some of which are known for recruiting directly from schools and shelters. On top of all this, poverty and inequality are fueling the fire. Winnipeg has one of the highest Indigenous populations in Canada, and systemic issues continue to impact safety and access to services. About 25% of residents live below the poverty line, and with unemployment sitting at 7.5%, it's no surprise that crime is on the rise. But, and here's the twist, Winnipeg isn't giving up. The city has invested millions in community policing, violence prevention programs, and safe housing. Groups like Bear Clan Patrol are doing amazing grassroots work, offering a different kind of presence on the streets. Winnipeg is a complex city, tough, raw, but real. It's got character, it's got soul, and yeah, it's got crime. If it were your friend, Winnipeg would be that ride-or-die buddy who's always got your back, but also gets into bar fights twice a week. Number 3. Sudbury, Ontario. Welcome to Sudbury, Ontario, aka the nickel capital of the world. It's got mines, lakes, and a science center shaped like a giant snowflake. But in 2025, it also holds the number 3 spot on our list of Canada's most dangerous cities, with a crime severity index of 61.9. For a city with just 170,000 people, that's a big red flag, and not the kind you wave at a parade. So, what's going down in this mining town? For starters, property crimes have skyrocketed, with a 20% increase in vehicle theft, 15% rise in break-and-enters, and petty theft practically becoming a sport. Sudbury's core and areas like Flour Mill and Donovan are seeing more shattered windows than souvenir shops. But the real kicker is violent crime. Assaults are up by 22%, and weapons-related incidents jumped 18% just last year. And yes, even Sudbury saw multiple homicides in 2024, including a few connected to gang activity. A shocker in a city more known for curling than crime sprees. Now let's talk drugs. Sudbury's been hit hard by the opioid crisis, with fentanyl-related deaths increasing by 26% in just 12 months. In fact, paramedics responded to over 1,100 overdose calls in 2024 alone, putting massive strain on the city's healthcare and first responders. So why is this happening? A lot of it comes down to economics. While mining still fuels much of the local economy, Sudbury has a 7.8% unemployment rate and struggles with affordable housing. Rent has climbed to $1,900 for a 2-bedroom, and with inflation pushing grocery bills to the moon, people are feeling desperate. On the bright side, community groups and police have started investing in social outreach, safe injection sites, and youth mentorship programs. But change takes time, and Sudbury's crime numbers suggest there's a long road ahead. If Sudbury were your friend, it'd be the quiet one in your group who unexpectedly pulls out nunchucks at a BBQ. mysterious, tough, and full of surprises. Some awesome, others, well, not so much. Number 2, Kelowna, British Columbia. Kelowna. Just hearing the name makes you think of vineyards, lake views, and endless sunshine. This place is like a Pinterest board brought to life. 140,000 people living in what feels like British Columbia's vacation dreamland. But wait, Kelowna is also Canada's second most dangerous city in 2025, with a crime severity index of 62.1. Yep, under all that wine country charm lies a bubbling pot of trouble. Let's break it down. Kelowna has seen a massive spike in drug-related crimes, particularly due to the opioid crisis. The city reported over 260 overdose deaths in 2024, which is insane for its size. And it doesn't stop there. Drug trafficking charges increased by 29%, with downtown Kelowna and Rutland becoming known hotspots. Now add property crime to the mix. Theft under $5,000 rose by 24%, and porch pirates are now just part of everyday life. Home break-ins and car thefts have also jumped, with a combined 19% increase year over year. In fact, locals joke that if you leave your car unlocked overnight, you're basically donating it to the city. And the cherry on top? Violent crimes are up 13%, with more armed robberies and assaults making headlines. Even the peaceful waterfront areas have seen scuffles and arrests. It's like paradise with a police scanner soundtrack. Why the surge? A mix of skyrocketing living costs, rent averages $2,400 for a two-bedroom, and a serious shortage of support services. Kelowna's population is growing rapidly, but infrastructure and law enforcement haven't kept pace. Add in tourists, transient populations, and lack of affordable housing, and boom, you've got a city struggling to hold on to its sunny reputation. To be fair, Kelowna still has magic. The lake is stunning, the wine flows like water, and the mountains are pure postcard material. But locals are nervous, businesses are investing in more security, and people are locking their bikes like it's Fort Knox. If Kelowna were a friend, it'd be that Instagram influencer who posts serene hiking pics but forgets to mention they got mugged on the trail. Gorgeous? Absolutely. But you better keep one eye on the view and the other on your backpack. Number 1. Surrey, British Columbia. Drumroll, please. And taking the crown for Canada's most dangerous city in 2025 is Surrey, British Columbia, with a crime severity index of 64.7. That's the highest in the country, folks. Surrey is no stranger to controversy, but this year, it's made it official. Crime here is on another level. With a booming population of over 630,000, Surrey has evolved from a suburban sidekick to a full-blown metropolis. But while the skyline's going up, so are the crime rates. Gun-related incidents rose by 25% last year, with over 300 firearm-related cases reported, many tied to gang violence. And speaking of gangs, Surrey is a known hub for organized crime, with multiple active groups operating across neighborhoods like Newton and Whalley. Violent crime is through the roof. Assaults increased by 19%, homicides by 14%, and armed robberies by a staggering 31%. And property crime? Don't even get us started. Vehicle theft alone is up by 28%, and Surrey ranks among the top cities in Canada for catalytic converter theft. So if you hear buzzing near your car at night, it might not be bees. But what's fueling the fire? Well, Surrey's rapid growth has outpaced its infrastructure. Policing is a hot political issue. The city's been flip-flopping between RCMP and municipal police services, which has created confusion and delays in law enforcement strategy. Meanwhile, housing prices average $1.2 million, and rent is sitting at $2,500+ for a two-bedroom. The pressure is intense, especially for lower-income families. Surrey's trying. There's funding for youth outreach, public safety campaigns, and more patrols. But with rising gang recruitment and ongoing turf wars, the road ahead is rocky. Locals are split. Some say crime is confined to certain areas, while others feel unsafe even in broad daylight. And here's the twist. Surrey isn't all bad. It has lush parks, a diverse population, and a growing arts scene. But the crime rate? It's become a defining feature, whether Surrey likes it or not. If Surrey were your friend, It'd be that guy who keeps telling you, "I'm working on myself," but then shows up to the party with bruised knuckles and a half-written rap sheet. Wild, unpredictable, but impossible to ignore.